One of the last topics it will be discussed, can God ever be seen or not? For Sunni Islam, it is possible to see God in an afterlife, in paradise. This is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari 74:34, 74:35 and Sahih Muslim 181a. There are no explanations within these narrations to why we can see God, but since the companions of the Prophet have narrated it from the Prophet, then these narrations are reliable to take from as true, Sunni Islam says. Since the companions of the Prophet, according to Sunni Islam, all were reliable and they have witnessed the life of the Prophet. For Shia Islam, we can never see God, even in an afterlife, according to their narrations from Prophet Muhammad's family, who some of them also witnessed the life of the Prophet, such as Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and Fatima. Narrations for these statements that we can never see God according to Shia Islam can be found in Al-Kafi Volume 1 Hadith 255, 256, and 275. Within these narrations, there are also explanations to why we cannot see God, besides it stating that we can never see God. Explanations from Prophet Muhammad and his family. Now, what is my analysis? I adhere to Shia Islam that states that God cannot be seen, even in an afterlife. God is outside time, space, and matter. There is no time that can find God. God is outside past, present, and future, in which a paradise is within. There is no room that can surround God. If a room can surround God, that would make the room greater than God. Hence, a paradise or the location of a judgment day cannot limit him. And since whatever place cannot limit God, then we cannot see God in an afterlife. God is outside all places, so that no place can limit God. God is not contained within anything. If we can see God in an afterlife, it means something encloses God. Since a paradise or a location of a judgment day is limited and finite, it would then also make God to be limited and finite if we can see God. That which can be seen is within room, and what is within room is limited by measures such as width, length, depth, etc. Within room there is light. Since God is outside room, light cannot reach God for us to be able to see God. Light travels through medium, for instance the air, but there is no medium between God and light, so that light can reach God. Light in itself cannot target God because God is outside all light together. Finally, God is outside of the limitations of matter. He isn't a physical thing, nor does he turn into a physical thing for us to be able to see him. That which consists of matter is limited and designed, while God is unlimited and uncreated. If God can be seen, then God would be inside time and space, because what can be seen is within time and space. Being within time and space is to be created and not uncreated, in which the true God is. Being within time and space is also to be within a specific time and a specific place, thus not in control of everything. In other words, he cannot then be all-powerful and all-knowing of all times and places. I, for instance, can be seen, and thus I was created in a specific time and in a specific location. Besides being only limited to one time and one specific place, this means also that I can only control what is within my time and my place and nothing else. Same would apply to God if God can be seen. If God can be seen, that which can be seen is made up of particles and has design. Being made up of particles is to be dependent upon things to exist, and having design is to be limited and created, for every designed thing is caused by someone else, would then have a beginning and an end. God would then not be independent nor infinite. If God can be seen, then it is stated that he consists of parts, because that which can be seen is made up of different things for us to be able to see that thing. Therefore, that which can be seen has different parts rather than being one, abstract without parts, in which the true God is. God in the Quran describes himself as Wahad, which means the one and only ruler, but also as Ahad, which means one who is not divided. God is not divided into a soul, body, thoughts, etc. That would go against God's oneness and essence. Now, since God would have parts if he can be seen, then he would be in need of his parts, but also become weak if anything is separated from him, which is possible to be subtracted from when consisting of parts. If God can be subtracted from, which to be seen suggests, is God still infinite? No. We have stated that since to be seen indicates to having parts, because that which can be seen is distinguished, and what is distinguished do have parts, then that which consists of parts is limited, for each part of which something is composed of constitutes itself a separate limitation, and what is formed from all separate parts into a certain whole form and structure is also limited in total. One that can be seen is divided and not one anymore. Hence it could be stated about God, if he can be seen, that there is multiple gods. For the universe and all life to come about, someone who is independent, infinite, all-knowing and all-powerful must be behind it. Otherwise the universe and all life will not exist. God cannot therefore be seen because he could then not have caused the universe and all life. For to be seen is to be dependent, finite, limited, only knowing and powerful within little, as has been described. This description of a God cannot cause the universe and all life. God is one, which means there is no distinction in his essence. Only then can God create the universe and all life. The oneness of God is that he is one who is indivisible, abstract. This is only possible if one cannot be seen. Furthermore, being seen is to be bound to the concepts of when, where, how, and whom. That which can be seen has a when, where, how, and whom to its existence. It could then be asked, when and where did God come into existence? How did he come about, and who created him? While the truth would be that God is outside these questions, he is the one who has caused when, where, how, and whom, and himself is not bound to it. That is only possible if one cannot be seen, someone who is outside time, space, and matter in which God is. Everything that can be seen is within time and space. That which is within time and space has a when, where, how, and whom to its existence. The one that can be seen is thus limited in all aspects to creation. We have limited God if we state that we can ever see God, because that which the eyes measures is limited, and what is limited has an end. What has an end will perish. But we know that God describes himself as infinite and unlimited, hence no eyes can perceive God. God has created abstract things that we cannot see, such as time, gravity, and consciousness. Shouldn't God himself, as the creator of such abstract things, also be beyond the realm of the visible? If aspects of his creation are beyond our direct perception, how can we expect to see the creator of both the visible and the abstract? This is an impossibility. Now everyone would also interpret God differently if God can be seen. Me and you do not see or think alike, hence it could be stated that there are multiple gods and not one God if God can be seen. But if God is abstract, cannot be seen, then he is for us in our imagination and thoughts the same. Only a God that cannot be seen is the same for all of us, because then he is for our thoughts and imagination the same, abstract. While if we can see God, then we can think of him and imagine him differently, but also see him differently. It would also be that we can fathom God if we can see him, but the truth should be that nothing or no one can fathom God, the Almighty. An afterlife is a dimension out of many dimensions. It would only be fair to state about God that he is outside all dimensions and that no dimension can fathom him. God describes himself with his 99 names to be abstract and not the one who can be seen or one with a body. Knowledge, power, mercy are all terms of being abstract rather than to be seen. And if we can see God, then this is a similarity to creation, because then it could be stated that the creator can be seen and the created can be seen. But God mentions in the Quran that there is no similarities to him. Here one can say, but is not God hearing while we also are hearing? So is this not a similarity? This is not a similarity with God because God's essence is still described as infinite and independent, because then even if we are hearing, God is all hearing, still infinite and independent, nothing like him so that nothing is similar to him. While if God can be seen and we can be seen, this causes a similarity in a way that both us and God will be limited, dependent, finite and created. So there are at least two issues with if God can be seen and we can be seen. And the first is that God will be similar to creation in that he will become limited and finite, and we are, but also that God's essence is no longer infinite, unlimited. So if God's essence gets affected, then we cannot say that God can be seen. Therefore, there is no issue with us hearing and God hearing, because still nothing is similar to him and his essence is still infinite, unlimited. The verse about God to be unlike anything is not contradictory in regard to us hearing and God being the all-hearing, since God is still in his essence infinite and that we are limited, dependent upon organs, while God is not in need of anything and is unlimited. The relationship between us and God is like that of characters in a game. The characters in a game cannot see the one who has caused the game. Likewise, we cannot see God. But could it not be stated that everything is possible for God so that we can see him? This question is not correct, outside of logic, hence cannot be true. God in his essence is not limited nor bound to changes. Suggesting that we can see God is to limit God and change His essence, but God is free from and not in need of changes or limitations. Can God give birth? Never, so never can God be seen either. Even if God wants to, He cannot give birth. In the Quran, it mentions that God cannot give birth. Giving birth makes one's essence limited, finite, while God is infinite, unlimited. With the same principle, God cannot ever be seen. 2 plus 2 can never become 5. If we state everything is possible for God, then God can create a stone which He cannot lift, or for the Christian belief that Jesus is God to be true. For indeed, if nothing is impossible for God, then what makes us believe that, for instance, me or you cannot be God? Everything outside of logic cannot exist as true. Then everything would be a truth so that everyone is right and no one is wrong. Chaos and corruption would exist since Allah now would exist that whatever we adhere to or do is correct, even if it is not logical, so that a killer can kill and it is his truth, so that no one can interfere and you can do or believe whatever you want as long as it fulfills your desires, even if you hurt someone else. Now within the Quran, God makes it also clear that He cannot be seen. Within it, there is the mentioning in chapter 6 verse 103 that God perceives all vision while we cannot perceive God in our vision. This law cannot be broken. And in chapter 42 verse 11 it states that nothing is like unto Him, so that whatever we see cannot be God. If we ever see God, then that which we see cannot be God, because nothing is like unto Him. In chapter 20 verse 110, God mentions that we cannot encompass Him with our knowledge. Eyewitness is one form of knowledge, since what we see is translated to information in our brain. Therefore we cannot see God, otherwise this verse becomes contradictory. God is outside of all our senses, so that no knowledge from us can encompass Him. But why then does God mention in the Quran chapter 38 verse 75 that He created Prophet Adam with His hands? So from Sunni Islam, a group within, a minority also believes that we can see God based upon verses in the Quran mentioning about, for instance, God's hands or face. Now to the literal verses of the Quran, there is the literal interpretation and the metaphorical interpretation. Since the metaphorical interpretation do exist, we cannot exclude it. The literal meaning to this verse is that God created Adam with His hands, while the metaphorical meaning is that God created Adam with His power. I adhere to the latter because God explains Himself to be abstract rather than one with a body. And many of the verses from the Quran would be problematic if we take the literal meaning. For instance, God mentions in the Quran, chapter 40 verse 58, that the blind and the seeing are not equal, but it cannot be taken literally since it would make God to be unjust for stating this. Rather, this verse has a metaphorical meaning that the blind, in other words the disbelievers, who knows deeply that God exists but neglects it, are not equal to the seeing, in other words the believers who practice what they believe. Another verse, chapter 17 verse 72, states that the blind in this world will be blind in the next to come. Would this not be problematic if a righteous believer who is literally blind in this world becomes blind in the hereafter also? Furthermore, God mentions in the Quran chapter 28 verse 88 that everything will be destroyed except His face. But if God has hands and everything will perish except His face, will God still be God without His hands? God also describes Himself closer to us than our jugular vein in chapter 50 verse 16. If taken literally, then God would be inside of us, a place closer to us than our jugular vein. But we understand from this verse rather a metaphorical meaning that nothing is hidden from God. A last verse out of many states that God's hands are over those who pledge allegiance to the Prophet. This is mentioned in chapter 48 verse 10. Here the word hand has a metaphorical meaning in relation to God. So would it then not be possible and more accurate to state that God's hands in the verse about Prophet Adam is taken metaphorically? Also, since hands in relation to God in another verse is proof of that it can be taken metaphorically. If I say you will get kicked out from the job or you are fired from the job, does it mean that you will literally be kicked out or be burned? What I want to come with is that we use metaphorical phrases in our life. God, the master of poesy, the master of writing, grammar, meanings, and books and interpretations, also uses metaphors in His Quran. Since there is a metaphorical interpretation to a literal verse in the Quran, we cannot then always just take a verse as it is written. Indeed, the Quran consists of both literal and metaphorical meanings to a verse, in which we have looked into. So how can one say that God has hands if the metaphorical explanation is also there? Now, if God has hands, then God is dependent upon his hands to exist, while the truth is that God is not in need of a hand. He is prior to creation of hand, independent. A hand is a creation of God. The word hand and its meaning in all descriptions, whether physical or non-physical, is not bound to God. For all Muslims, it is known that God can cause everything to exist with kun fayakun, meaning be and it is. Can then God not cause Adam with kun fayakun? Yes, he can. Thus, hands are not needed. If we state that God needs hands to cause Adam, then God is not all-powerful. To have hands is to be divided and not one. To be divided is to be visible, and to be visible, as previously stated, means that God is no longer independent, infinite, almighty, and all-knowing. To have hands is to exist within time, and to exist within time is to be created, for that which exists within time has a beginning, since the concept of time itself is created and has a beginning. God is no longer God if he has hands. There are some within Sunni Islam that states that God's hands are not like our hands. It exists as it befits his majesty. But within my analysis, this cannot be the case because of everything described up until now about what it means for God to have a hand, but also with the explanation that just making a similarity with a hand is sufficient to state that a hand cannot be like unto God. Just that we can compare God having hands and we have hands, it doesn't have to be different. Just the comparison in itself is sufficient to state that God doesn't have hands, because as mentioned before, that a hand, whether physical or non-physical, consists of limitations, design, being finite and dependent to have, while God in his essence is the opposite of all of this. We cannot state that God can be seen and we can be seen. Likewise, we cannot state God has hands and we have hands, because as mentioned before, it will affect God's essence to be limited and for God to be similar to us. A body or to be seen is contained, dependent upon a standing, within time, space and matter, thus limited in structure, similar to creation, imaginable and something to be alike, comprehensible and apprehensible. This does not fit upon a God, creator of the universe and all life. Rather, God is the opposite of this description and any description. He is not bound to anything save a body or to be seen. God is unlimited, infinite. Because God is unlimited and infinite, then nothing can limit God, not time, no space, no matter, not a body, nor to be seen. Now, I from the beginning of this video mentioned some narrations from Sunni Islam where the companions of the Prophet has said that we can see God. And so Sunni Muslims adhere to this based upon the fact that the companions of the Prophet are reliable to them and for the explanation that they saw the life of the Prophet. Therefore, it is correct to believe what is stated from them that we can see God. We will now examine if it is true that we can see God based on this argument, and also will we see if it is true that the word companion in relation to Prophet Muhammad is fully reliable or not. According to Sunni Islam, in regard to Prophet's companions, is that the concept of being a companion are all good. Sunni Muslims do not differentiate between them to either good or bad. They see them as only good. One reason is because according to Sunni Islam, they witnessed the life of the Prophet and were around him. From Shia Islam's perspective, those around the Prophet are categorized as either good or not, meaning some are good and some are not. Only those God has chosen to represent his religion for mankind are fully trustable, can definitely be said are good and totally safe for Shia Islam. Those God has declared for us to follow are those we should turn to so we do not go astray according to Shia Islam. So for instance, in the time of Prophet Muhammad, we should only turn to Prophet Muhammad as our guide. We do not turn to someone else in his presence, and after him it is those the Prophet has declared for us to adhere to that we should hold on to. The rest around the Prophet for Shia Islam are either good or not, just like any Muslim in any era, to either adhere to their religion with the tongue, heart and actions or not. This doesn't mean for Shia Islam that all other than the prophets, messengers, angels, imams as successors are bad. Rather, those who are not chosen by God to represent his religion for the people can either be a follower of the religion or not. Only those who has been chosen and purified to spread their religion further after Prophet Muhammad are totally good without judgment. So the prophets, angels, messengers, leaders said to mankind, and those God has purified, for instance Maryam, mother to Jesus, is seen for Shia Islam as 100% trustworthy, but the rest of the people who lives among God's representatives can sin, hence is divided into good or not. So for Sunni Islam, the companions cannot deviate from the religion. But for me, according to Sunni Islam, it should be possible that a companion can deviate from the religion or be categorized as bad, because a standard within Sunni Islam is that all around Prophet Muhammad could do major sins. So it shouldn't be viewed as far-fetched to believe, according to Shia Islam, that some are good and some are not, which we will soon also with evidence show. But first it will be stated that what I'm mentioning now about the companions is related to the topic about if we can see God or not, in which you will also realize soon. Now, the word companion in itself within Arabic Sahaba is not defined as righteousness or piety. Rather, it means someone accompanies someone else, someone who is with someone. A companion is further defined as someone to spend much time with. For instance, I live with the people within my job or the people in my school. We accompany each other. It doesn't mean that we or those who are around me are righteous if I myself is. If the Prophet is upon good, it doesn't mean that those around him are also good because the Prophet is good. Rather, it is an individual case. If you are righteous, it doesn't mean that those around you also are righteous because you are righteous. The word companion in the Quran has also been mentioned for either good purposes or bad purposes, so that it could be stated that the word companion is not for it to be just all good or all bad. There is a neutral, balanced meaning to the word companion in the Quran, not that it means only good or only bad. The word companion is either to be meant as righteousness or wickedness. In chapter 12, verse 39, Prophet Joseph sat in the prison with two others, in which God called them companions of the prison. The word Sahaba has been used, while one of them around Prophet Joseph was not a believer. In chapter 18, verse 37, it mentions that a believing companion spoke with his disbelieving companion. So in this verse, it is crystal clear that someone who is a companion of another does not mean for that companion to be righteous because of the company of a righteous person. History recalls for the companions of Prophet Moses and Prophet Jesus to have altered and changed the religion before the religion of Islam. This is also mentioned in the Quran chapter 5 verse 40, chapter 9 verse 30, and chapter 2 verse 54. All prophets in general, majority of their people were rebellious. For instance, only few embarked. Prophet Noah's Ark, chapter 11 verse 40 tells us, the people of Prophet Abraham worshipped statues, as this is mentioned in chapter 21 verse 51 to 54, and most of Prophet Jonah's people around him did not listen to their prophet. The people of Israel, namely Prophet Jacob, many of his people were corrupted, which Quran chapter 2 verse 83 states, and some people even killed their prophets. It is mentioned in chapter 2 verse 61. Other prophets are also mentioned in the Quran to have those around them categorized as not good. For instance, many companions from Prophet Abraham and Prophet David. For every time only few believed in their prophet's message. God himself mentions that only few of his servants are grateful within chapter 34 verse 13. So how can we be sure that all thousands of Prophet Muhammad's companions were all good, Shia Islam states, if every prophet that came to its people, their people, many of them were corrupted? For all the prophets, majority of their people were bad. Is this not a sign also for Prophet Muhammad that not all around him were good, because God gives this concept within the Quran that all prophets got difficult moments with their people? Also specifically about Prophet Muhammad's companions in the Quran, they are categorized into three groups. The three groups are those among the companions who are good, those around the Prophet who were hypocrites, and those who God may forgive. This is mentioned in the Quran chapter 9 verse 100 to 103. We can also read in the Quran that the companions of Prophet Muhammad fled wars, such as Battle of Uhud and Hunayn. This is mentioned in chapter 3 verse 153 to 154 and chapter 9 verse 25 to 27. To flee a war is to protect oneself rather than the Prophet and the religion, because the opposite is to stand there and protect the Prophet and the religion. To flee a war is to save oneself first, prioritizing oneself over God and His religion, while the Quran mentions in chapter 33 verse 6 that God and His Prophet has more right over the believers than what the believers have over themselves, which means that we must prioritize our religion first over ourselves, otherwise we are inclined towards our lusts and desires. Within the Battle of Hunayn, God mentions that many companions fled. How do we know it was many? It is because God refers to the companions in this verse with you, indicating great numbers fled and not just some of you. The verses about the Battle of Hunain continues to state that those who stood with the Prophet, not fleeing, were categorized as believers, and for those who fled to be considered by Allah as such that He would forgive whom He wills, and by stating whom He wills, it doesn't necessarily mean all were forgiven. It could be all or it could be not, only God knows. Even if God forgave all at the Battle of Hunain, it doesn't mean that they would never sin again, because according to Sunni Islam, none are sinless around the Prophet, so the companions have sinned again after the incident at Battle of Hunain. Also, many of the previous Prophet's people time and time again asked for forgiveness, but still continued being corrupted. Now we can also read in the Quran that many of the companions of Prophet Muhammad rushed for business instead of listening to Prophet's lecture in chapter 62 verse 11. Only few stayed with the Prophet, as Sunni narration tells us for this verse in Sahih Muslim 863a. This verse mentions that the Prophet spoke to his people, and meanwhile he spoke, a caravan came, so many of the companions rushed to it, leaving the Prophet's lecture. So Shia Islam mentions that we cannot say all are upon good, or that all are trustworthy, but we can state some are and some are not. This perfectly fits when we look into the evidence that has been brought up regarding the previous prophets in relation to their companions, the word companion as a definition, and within the Quran being used as either good or not, but also verses about the companions in regard to Prophet Muhammad. When we specifically analyze the word companion in relation to Prophet Muhammad in the Quran, it is never mentioned in those verses that all are upon good or all are upon bad. Rather, God mentions about the companions of Prophet Muhammad that some are good and some are not. He uses the word those of you rather than all of you. One can read throughout the Quran for oneself about the companions in relation to Prophet Muhammad to see that this is indeed true. Here are thus examples of people around prophets who were not righteous, so that we cannot state because they saw the lifestyle of their prophets or because they are companions, therefore they are all reliable. Is it then not possible with these examples for those around Prophet Muhammad, thousands of them, that some are good and some are not, rather than all are good and reliable? How can we be sure that all thousands of Prophet Muhammad's companions were all good, if every prophet that came to its people, their people, many of them were corrupted? We should not confuse ourselves. Yes, God is perfect, His religion is perfect, the Quran is unchanged, the Prophet is sinless, but that doesn't mean that the companions must be flawless also. The concept within the Quran for all previous prophets is that the companions of those prophets can be either good or bad, and not that all were good or all were bad. And we can't state that just because someone witnessed the lifestyle of a prophet, this person is righteous. For instance, the companions of Prophet Moses and Prophet Jesus were the ones who saw the lifestyle of their prophets but changed their religion. The wives of Prophet Lut and Prophet Noah lived under the same roof as their prophets, but is described within the Quran in chapter 66 verse 10 that they are going to hell. Do not misunderstand, many of Prophet Muhammad's companions for Shia Islam were good and sacrificed their life for Islam. There is a whole list of righteous companions according to Shia Islam. It should not be misunderstood that the view of Shia Islam is that all are bad, while the truth is some are good and some are not, according to Shia Islam, which is logical. In any way, we should have our focus on that we are united upon that Prophet Muhammad is righteous and the best of creation. No Muslim can deny this. Thus, I believe also, which is related, that we cannot base upon someone being a companion or to witness someone that it means a source is reliable to take from. In this case, that God can be seen because the companions of the Prophet has said so. Otherwise, why is not Prophet Muhammad's family reliable and correct when they state we cannot see God in Shia sources? Family members of Prophet Muhammad were also present during the lifetime of the Prophet and accompanied him. If we lay out the idea that someone is trustworthy based upon being there around the Prophet and accompanying him, then we cannot state that the companions of the Prophet in Sunni narrations are telling the truth about God, that we can see him, in comparison to the narrations from Shia books within Prophet's family who states we cannot see God. We cannot make a conclusion based on either, but we can make a conclusion based on what is logical, and logic we use to everything, also to when we compare different religions for us Muslims to then with logic choose Islam over the other religions. And so with logic, the statements from Shia Islam that we cannot see God is the truth for me. So through logic, I align myself with Shia Islam in the belief that we cannot see God as the true statement. It is also mentioned in both Sunni and Shia books that Prophet Muhammad said in his final sermon before his passing to adhere to his family, Imam Ali and his descendants, so that we do not go astray. This is found in Sahih Muslim 2408a, Jami' at-Tirmidhi 3788, and Bihar al-Anwar, Volume 2, page 316 to 317. Therefore, I take the words of Imam Ali and his descendants as truth when they describe anything in relation to the Prophet's teachings. Only the Shia Muslims have followed this final sermon of the Prophet by adhering solely to Imam Ali and his descendants. Hence, I rely on Shia books when it is written therein that Imam Ali and the caliphs from the Prophet's family have said that we cannot see God, which also do not contradict the Quran and logic. In Sunni books, most or 95% of the hadiths are narrated by the companions of the Prophet. However, the Prophet's final speech only mentions following the Prophet's family after him and not anyone else. In Shia books, there are only hadiths from the family of the Prophet, no one else. Thus, in my analysis, I cannot rely on the claim that God can be seen when a companion in the Sunni books has said that we can see God. This is partly due to everything explained up until now regarding a companion, and also because the companions of the Prophet were not chosen to lead mankind after him. At the very least, those who have narrated that we can see God in the Sunni books were not chosen to guide mankind after Prophet Muhammad. 3 criteria must be met for me to accept something as truth in regards to this. The first is that it must align with the Quran and logic. The second is that the chosen successors of Prophet Muhammad must be the primary source of the narration. And the third is that it must be found in the books or the religion that adheres to Prophet Muhammad's final speech, which commands us to adhere to the Prophet's family after him. Since Shia Islam fulfills this, I cannot accept as true any narration in the Sunni books that contradicts this. For instance, that a companion of the Prophet in Sunni books mentions about God's nature that we can see him. The Sunni view do not meet up these 3 criteria, thus I adhere to Shia Islam. For Sunni Islam, it is the case that since the companions of the Prophet have been with the Prophet for so long and close to him in terms of physical presence, then it must be that all are good. But with the mentioned evidence and logically for me, it is that accompany someone does not define goodness or its opposite in wickedness. If we apply this to our own life, we all have friends either good or bad, even though they live with us. I'm sure everyone can relate to one situation in one's life that this is true. This, I believe, is a fair approach to state that within Shia Islam, those around Prophet Muhammad, it is believed that some are good and some are not. Shia Islam mentions that just like the previous prophets in relation to their people around them, some around these prophets were good and some were not. I adhere to the view of Shia Islam that some are good and some are not, as a hierarchy and not according to Sunni Islam that all were good and that we do not differentiate between them to either good or not. With this analysis, I hope I have with respect and with good mannerism laid out the differences and what is logical for me in relation to the companions around the Prophet and what is logical for me in regard to if God can be seen or not. For all these reasons mentioned here, I adhere to Shia Islam that states God cannot be seen. He will manifest himself within a paradise or judgment day in another way which would also be very clear, but not with the naked eyes for us to see him, rather through intellect, heart and intuition. In a paradise, everything will be amplified for a believer to be close to God, but with other measurement than the senses. We don't need to see God for him to exist, or for us to state that he exists. If we don't see him in a judgment day or in a paradise, are we going to disbelieve? We cannot see him now, yet we believe firmly in him, or do we?